Okay guys, Devil's Details 2, Metcon first. So I talked about last week why we do strength on Mondays. You can refer back to that if you want to see that. But when we do strength on Mondays, a lot of gyms, and this is very common when they do a strength plus Metcon. That started way back in the day. I forget who started. It might have been Outlaw CrossFit that started the Metcon or strength and then Metcon a long time ago. And then, if you go to an L2, something like that, L3, they'll talk about how you should still do one thing each day. And sometimes we do one thing each day, either a Metcon or a lift or something like that. But on Mondays when we do strength, we do the Metcon first. And the reason we do that, I started doing this back in 2019. There was a lot of reasons, and I won't go into all of them now because they've kind of changed as to why I do it now. But if you want to see the original reasons, I'll put in the description of this one, the first time I talked about this. But one is I got older. I found when we lift heavy, there is still the chance of getting injured. There's a chance of getting injured when we do anything. And I think the risk-reward ratio is well worth it to lift heavy, but occasionally it does happen. But I believe I can decrease statistically the chances of that, especially as we age, if we do a Metcon first. And it needs to be a very well thought out Metcon that complements and does not ruin the chance to do effective strength work. This last Monday is a great case in point. We were doing hang power cleans and burpees over the bar. And our strength cycle right now is push jerk. So yes, are your tricep and shoulders are going to get worked on burpees over the bar? Are your shoulders going to get worked a little bit when you're doing the hang power cleans? Absolutely. But in my opinion, not so much that with a 7 to 10 minute rest afterwards, you can't do sets of 75% of your push jerk max. And what I find is when we do what I call that first Metcon, a very robust warm-up, that you're just a lot looser. Your nervous system, as you know, I've talked about this before, when our body temperature is increased, when we've started to sweat, your neurological system is much more efficient, fires faster, fires more in unison, so you're just more coordinated, is how I would put it. And our tendons and ligaments, as we all well know, as we get older and get past 35, 45, 55, get thicker, less elastic, and need more time to get loose to be ready to move those heavier weights. So if I did a Metcon on Monday and it was a bunch of strict shoulder press before we do push jerk, that might be counterproductive. So I have to think through what's the strength work we're doing and what Metcon can I do that won't diminish our ability to lift heavy on those movements. And the Metcon's always short, 10 minutes or less. This one on last Monday was a 7-minute ascending AMRAP is what we do. And that's a very typical way I would do it. So I find you can lift safer, lift with better form, lift, in my opinion, just as heavy, if not heavier, than if you did it first and are fresh. And I can help you avoid injury even more. And plus, I think, again, what are we training for, guys? We're training for real life. We're training to be as fit and as active and as capable in real life for our whole life, as much as we can be. And I have found when you need to lift heavy and do something heavy in life, you're usually not doing it in a rested state. You've been working on stuff in the yard and now you got to lift some heavy rocks. You're moving some heavy groceries and you got to carry them into the house. Whatever the case may be, when you're lifting heavy, you're usually not doing it from a completely rested state and then you warmed up for 5 minutes and then you do it. No, it is in combination with other stuff you're doing, so you are sweaty, your heart rate is up. And so that's what we're training. We're training fatigue-resistant strength when we do strength that way, because I believe that is more applicable to life and more in line with the CrossFit methodology. Since what we're training for is not to compete at an event, it is to be better at doing all the tasks life throws at us. And that brings me to another side tangent of, I'm not training you. I'm training you to be strong, and as strong as you can be for your body and your build and your age, all of that kind of stuff. I want you to be as strong as you can be. But I am not training you to peak in a weightlifting competition, to peak in a powerlifting competition, or even to peak in a CrossFit competition. And I think that's one of the things with the competitive side of CrossFit that can be misleading. And the CrossFit Games are coming up in just a couple weeks. I will be watching them. I love them. I think it's going to be a great year. I think both the men's and women's field is wide open. I think there's 10 guys that could win it, probably 8 to 10 girls that could take first. I think it's going to be a very exciting year. It's the 20th anniversary, and I am a huge fan of the CrossFit Games. But the CrossFit Games and how those guys train to do CrossFit, in my opinion, is not how Greg Glassman designed CrossFit when he came up with it. I think Greg very quickly saw that this attracted competitive people. There was a time clock involved, and so people were going to get competitive with each other. And so I think he knew there was going to be a competitive aspect to this. But Greg was always very, at best, lukewarm and often just flat out against the games. And as I've been doing CrossFit longer and longer, I get more and more why he was like that. Because I think it is misleading as to how the methodology is applied in a lot of ways. And one of these would be these guys that do the CrossFit Games have a very short life cycle to be as good as they can be. By the time you're 34 for the open age group, you're old. You're past your prime. You need to win the CrossFit Games somewhere in your 20s. So these guys need to get as strong and as skilled and with as big an engine as they can have very quickly. They are not training at that point in time, if they're training for the games, to be as fit as they can be at 40 or 50. They're training to be as fit as they can be next year for the next time they go into the games. And that is a different goal, and you will train a different way for that. So you will spend lots of dedicated time just working strength. You will spend lots of dedicated time just doing skill work. You need to, because you're a professional athlete at this point. You're spending a lot of time in the gym, not just an hour like all of us are. So you will have time to devote to these things. And the people that are going to be good at the games are young and also have, I would say, genetically an incredible work capacity and recovery capacity. So it's not just that they're young, it's they're young and they have the right genetics that allow them to just beat the crap out of themselves for 5 to 6 hours a day and come back and do that day after day. And there's a lot of 20-somethings that are very good athletes that couldn't do that. That's why I think it's always going to be a very niche kind of sport, because of the skill set and the genetics that will make you good at it. And I think even when Glassman saw the first couple games, he was viewing this as like a celebration of the fitness. It's going to be very informal, like a bunch of hippies getting together to hang out. It's a bunch of CrossFitters getting together to hang out. We'll do some workouts. We'll bond. Get some bragging rights as we do this. I think he viewed it as a very informal, organic thing where a bunch of boxes in their area would get together and go from there. And then suddenly this became like this sanctioned worldwide competition. And Greg wanted nothing to do with it, because I agree with him. That's not what CrossFit is. That is an offshoot, a niche kind of aspect of CrossFit, but that is not at all what we're doing in the gym or what I'm training you for. I'm training you to be skilled, whether it's with gymnastics or with strength, with cardio stuff, all of it. I'm training you to do it in combination with the other movements and under fatigue. And that is the kind of skill set and fitness that is going to transfer to life. It is not the kind of training I would do with you if I was trying to get you to the CrossFit Games. Because one, an hour is not enough nowadays to do that. And you need to spend a lot of time on skill work so you can speed up your ability to do those things. You need to do a lot more strength volume so you can get stronger faster. But why I'm but I am cautious about people doing a lot of CrossFit competitions is I think it wears you out. As you know, a lot of the original CrossFit Games athletes are still doing CrossFit. As CrossFit has come along, a lot of the people that come into it that didn't come from a box, came in to do the sport, they do it for a while and then they're not doing CrossFit anymore. I know some that are doing bodybuilding competitions. I know some that are doing just running or rucking, whatever, because one, they're really beat up. A lot of them are beat up. And a lot of them are just mentally and physically worn out because of how intense CrossFit is. And I don't want to do that to you guys, because I don't want to get you super fit at 32 and then have you tell friends at 42 how you used to be great at CrossFit and you don't look it at all or can do it at all. I want you to be the kind of guy that at 42 and 52 and 62, people are like, man, you're 52 years old? You look like you're 30. You're 62 years old? You look like you're 39. That's what I'm training you for, is to have that kind of physical fitness. And to do that requires a different kind of training and requires, so yes, I'm not trying to peak you for strength. I am trying to get you stronger, but having you do that strength after you've already done a Metcon and are a little bit under fatigue is much more in line with the CrossFit methodology, and I think much more beneficial for your ability to do this for the next 20 years, not the next 2 years. So that's why we do the Metcon first on the strength day, because one, it helps you do the strength better, and it helps you get more fit for the kind of fitness we're trying to achieve. All right, guys, short and sweet on this one. Let me know what you think. Right on.